Do you want to have the perfect start possible in Expedition 33? You are in the right place. As your fellow player who played this fantastic game for more than 30 hours and is about to finish my first playthrough, I'll be giving 18 tips that will save you a lot of time to speed up your progress and help you avoid the common traps in the game. Like for example, not paying attention to the items that gestrels are offering or your merchants in this game. Gestrels are scattered across the overworld, so finding each of them is pretty important. Each of them offers unique items that you can take advantage of, but you do have a lot of options to buy from them. So if you are limited on chroma, you can never go wrong buying recoats, which is an item that lets you reset your character stats. The color of Lumina is a must-have as well, so you can use them to increase a character's Lumina count so you can equip more passives. And lastly, always buy Pictos since you need to get every Pictos that you can for character building later on. I will be diving into Pictos, recoats, and character builds later on, but for now, these are the ones that you should be getting every time you find a merchant. Plus, fighting the merchant will let you unlock special items as well, such as powerful weapons. Like for example, I get Demonam here after fighting the merchant, so make sure to challenge these gestrels whenever you have the chance. Speaking of Pictos, Pictos are more like of your secondary equipment or accessories in this game, which adds raw stats and unique passives. Mastering a Picto is pretty straightforward. You just need to equip a certain Picto and complete 4 fights. You will inherit its passive effects as Luminas, which I will get into in a minute. So in every Pictos that you buy from shops or find in the field, make sure that at least your main characters will master every Pictos that you have. I main Gustav, Lune, and Mael, so I am making sure that I let them master every Picto that I have currently. If you do this, you will save yourself a lot of headaches and time later on, especially when you need to proper build your characters around mid-game. One bonus tip is you will know if a certain character already mastered a certain Picto if the golden gauge was already filled, and I cannot stress how this confused me a lot when I was starting since I was not sure which Pictos were mastered already. Tip number 3 is don't neglect a Picto's raw stats. Aside from your main weapon, Pictos provides the bulk of your other stats such as critical chance, defense, health, and more. Take them as your main source of raw stats when building your characters. So after mastering a certain Picto, make sure to still pay attention to the equipped Pictos of a certain character. It is easy to think that, hey, I already mastered this Picto and move on without changing your Pictos and handicap yourself by not having additional raw stats, especially in hard fights. You already know that mastering Pictos will convert them into Luminas. Luminas are your special passives, which is the core feature of character building in this game. Each Lumina has a different slot cost, and at first, you will have limited Lumina slots. Lumina slot increases when the character levels up or by using the color of Lumina currency that we just talked about. Pretty straightforward when it comes to character building. The more Lumina slots you have, the more passives that a character can equip, and then the more passives, the stronger a character gets. With just progressing in the game, you will be unlocking the Curator NPC, which can be accessed in your camp. Tip number 5 is taking advantage of tints. Not only you can increase a character's Lumina points by speaking to the Curator, but you can also upgrade your tints. Tints are your basic limited consumables in this game, such as healing tints, revive tints, and energy tints. By getting special upgrade tint materials in the field like Shape of Health, Shape of Energy, and Shape of Life, you can upgrade your tints and make them more effective in combat, which is pretty useful when fighting against hard enemies. Chroma elixirs, on the other hand, is another thing, but mainly heals your entire party when in the field. It is useful between checkpoints and works like an Estus Flask in the Dark Souls series. Additionally, you can also upgrade your weapons by speaking to the Curator. You can trade catalysts, which you can get from enemy drops, or loot in the field, or buy from gestrels to upgrade your weapons. Each catalyst type covers certain weapon upgrade levels, just like how Titanites in the Dark Souls series or Smithing Stones in Elden Ring. However, you can also upgrade your weapons freely by fighting enemies at world map. I'm still determining the trigger of when each weapons levels up, but basically, I just equip them when fighting overworld enemies to level a certain weapon. But the fastest way is to upgrade them directly if you do have the materials. When traversing the open world, yes, there is actually an open world or your traditional JRPG world map in Expedition 33. After unlocking the camp feature, by just progressing in the game, you can access it anytime by pressing the down directional button on a controller or pressing G when using a keyboard. When you are in camp, you can upgrade your weapons or Luminas anytime or talk to your party members. But the greatest benefit of your camp is respawning open world enemies so you can power level and grind for XP and chromas. enemies. Although grinding is not needed in this game, if you master the basics of combat, I know a lot of you loves to grind. So I covered the best early spots that you can grind efficiently and level up fast in this video, so be sure to click the card here and check the description below. Moving on to exploration tips, and tip number 8 is taking your time exploring a location. As obvious as this tip may sound, this game has a lot of secrets to uncover, like hidden paths, hidden NPCs with side quests, and more. Not only that, you can also find hidden mini bosses, which most of the time can wreck you for the first time you encounter them because they are stronger than you. So make sure to take note of these bosses, so when you are strong enough to take these bosses down, you know where to find them. These optional enemies drop powerful items or useful currencies, so I highly suggest you take your time in exploration. When exploring properly, not only you will be getting a handful of item loot, which are most of the time tint upgrades, color of LUMINA, and even Pictos. Additionally, find mimes that can give you skins after beating them. This applies to optional areas as well, since there are a lot of optional areas in the overworld, which most of the time offer stronger enemies than you, so take note of these areas and come back later on to clear them for more secret rewards. Since we do not have a minimap to access when exploring dungeons, which is a positive thing in my opinion because it lets you stay focused and immersed in your journey, just like in Souls-like. Your main guide when finding the main path to progress is usually the floating lamps. If you're trying to 100% explore an area and get all of the loot and secrets it offers, always go to the areas without the said lamp first, because areas without the lamps usually leads to optional areas, while if you are rushing to complete the game, just follow the floating lamps to clear a certain level. I mentioned that you will be encountering special NPCs while exploring certain locations. Most of them will ask you to fetch certain items for them to reward you with special items, however, you can also attack them. So far, I have never received any special rewards for killing the said NPCs, so I suggest avoiding killing them. I'm getting the Souls-like NPC vibes in here, so keeping them alive to clear their side quests is suggested. Combat heavily incentivizes the player after successful consecutive parries and dodges. Like for example, being able to parry an entire animation of an enemy attack will lead you to a powerful counter attack afterwards. Being able to punish them even if it's not your turn is absolutely broken. Also, perfect dodges can give the character free AP points and it can quickly adds up, especially when the enemy pulls off attack combinations. I'm pretty surprised that there are a lot of Souls-like elements were incorporated in this game's combat, like well-telegraphed moves and delay attacks. The biggest tip that I have for you is an easy way for you to dodge and parry effectively is by watching the enemy's weapon animation closely. By the time the animation kicks in and the enemy is committed to the attack, that's the time you parry or dodge and you will be surprised how easy it is to pull off. Enemies being stunned or staggered can suffer a lot of incoming damage from your party just like in any other games. Normal attacks and free aim attacks can fill the enemy's stun gauge, so by the time the gauge reaches its full, the target will be broken. So I highly suggest paying attention to the skills designed to stun enemies like Gustav's Overcharge or Shatter, which can stun multiple enemies. You can easily determine if a skill is a stun skill if the skill says can break. You will encounter enemies that have a huge damage mitigation skill, which is annoying to deal with. But if you stun these types of enemies, they will be sitting ducks and die quickly when you hit them when they are stunned. Most of the time, these strategies applies to the secret mime enemies, so as soon as you see these enemies, stun the hell out of them. Free aiming on the other hand allows the character to shoot projectiles and manually be aimed at enemy weak points. Different types of enemies have varying weak points such as glowing crystals, physical equipment that you can destroy, or even destroyable body parts. Destroying enemy weak points most of the time weakens them or damages them greatly, and some enemies' weak spots can unleash an AoE damage when being destroyed. Like for example, when shooting this Nevron's floating mines will unleash an AoE explosion, damaging its friendlies. Tip number 14 is destroying shields correctly. You will eventually encounter enemies that buff themselves with shields as you progress in the game. However, beginners use normal attacks or even normal skills to deplete enemy shields, and it is actually a huge waste of turns and AP. The best way to take out enemy shields is using free aim shots, which can easily take out multiple number of shields versus when performing normal attacks. Or pay attention to skills that can completely delete shield counts, like for example Mael's Breaking Rule skill, where she will destroy any number of enemy shields and convert them to AP as well. In Expedition 33, you will have the freedom to shape any character according to your playstyle, not just in equipment but by allocating stats. Might, agility, and luck are the priorities here. The game already defined what each stat does, so it is up to your build which points matter. Since this is not your traditional turn-based game, defense and vitality is not that needed unless you are going for a very specific tanking build. You do have parries and dodges to counter enemy attacks anyway, so it is a ways to add the majority of your points on defense and vitality. Also, Pictos can grant you huge raw defense stats and HP, so if you are worried about your survival, you will still have a huge amount of raw defense and HP from your Pictos alone. Just like in Souls-likes, weapons in this game have scaling. Although weapon scaling does not add a huge amount of attack, it can still add a decent amount of raw attack by just simply using the right weapon that matches your build. Like for example in Gustav's Lancer-Ram, which has a scaling of B for vitality and C for agility. I will get more raw attack points depending on how high my vitality and agility are. But don't avoid other weapons that have different scaling than your character has, since the weapon has its own passives and element type. So depending on the situation, use the right weapon compared to the character's current one which scales to his or her stats. Tip number 17 is paying attention to party synergy when building your team. Party synergy is everything in Expedition 33. Now this section can warrant a dozen videos since character building in this game is simply well diverse and so creative to the point that it is too deep and addictive. For the sake of the video, I will try my best to show you how a good party synergy works. For starters, your first three characters which are Gustav, Lune, and Mael, with these three, you can do a lot of fight strategies because their kit is well synergized. Build Lune around fire skills so she can easily inflict burn on single and multiple targets. Building Mael around shield remover or general offensive skills. And finally Gustav, build him around dealing lightning damage and dealing consistent marks. Here are some applications of this build that will perfectly show party synergy. One strategy is making enemies weak to fire constantly by performing wildfire with Lune. All enemies will now suffer to burns after casting the said skill. Mael can use her degagement skill which forces enemy to be weak to fire. On top of it, Gustav will then inflict the enemy with Mark, and Mark is pretty much one of the most broken skills in this game, doubling the damage that the target suffers on the next hit. When Luna gets her turn again, the enemy is already weak to fire and already suffering from Mark, so any fire-based skill that she will inflict, the enemy will deal tons of damage. Like for example here, I use Immolation that can add 2 more burns if the target is already marked, which in our case it is. Using Immolation will deal tons of damage while also making the burn stacks to a whopping 9 burn stacks. Burn damage over time in this game is simply not joking. Another good strategy when using this build is Mael's offensive switch, which inflicts targets with defense down or defense less status ailment. Gustav will then use his marking shots to mark the target, and when Mael gets her turn again, she can use Percy, which can deal huge tons of damage when the target is marked, and you can see how broken the damage is, since the mark status and ailment stack with Percy increased damage. The last example would be Luna inflicting all targets with fire once again by using wildfire. Gustav on the other hand is equipped with critical burn Picto or Lumina, which increases his critical hit chance when the enemy is burning, which is yes in this instance. His Lumiere assault skill doubles the charges it gains when dealing critical hits, so you can see that his overcharge meter quickly went over to 8/10. In this way, he can access his max overcharge skill faster, which is one of his strongest damaging skills. Believe me, this is just the basic strategies and just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to character building. There are tons of crazy combinations that you can do in this game, and I will soon cover them all. There are a bunch of Pictos that you can use early on to get the highest damage possible even when just starting the game. Since this topic broadness and for the sake of the video, I will make another video covering the best early weapons and Pictos that you should get. But for now, I'm showing you all of the best Pictos that you should master. If you are exploring all of the locations so far in the game, chances are you already had the majority of the Pictos here. But what if you are looking for the best farming spots to level up in early game? Click on these videos and I will catch you on the next one.